That was in March 1938. I was just 9 years old. I went to speak. I wanted to go and play with a friend of mine, a non-Jewish girl, after school. And the mother opened the door. When she saw me, she said, "You're not welcome here anymore," and she smashed the door in my face. I went home crying. I couldn't understand, you know, and my mother said, "Well, from now on for Jewish people things are going to be really very, very hard." And it was hard. My brother was attacked from his own school friends, and the teacher stood there and watched. This was the situation. Eventually, my father was lucky to get us out. We went through Belgium into Holland. And that was, we got there very, very late. Again, you know, I'm not telling the whole story why we went first to Belgium. And we moved in 1940, February 1940, to a big square in Amsterdam. You can have a look later. It's a Merwedeplein. And this is where I met another Jewish family, the Franks. And after school, all the children played there in the street. And a little girl came to introduce herself and said her name was Anne Frank. We were both 11 years old, and we played together after school, and I went up to meet her family. But again, it didn't last very long. In May, one night we heard guns and aeroplanes, and we looked out and saw the searchlights, and we realized something is happening. We put the radio on, and it's terrible news. The Germans are invading our country. We quickly packed a little suitcase and went to the harbor to try to escape to England. But by the time we got there, the last boat had gone. So now we were really trapped. Well, the measures against the Jewish people started to come slowly, because the Germans were very, very clever. You know, they knew the Dutch people liked their Jews, actually. They said always, "That's our people, our Jews, we love you, we are going to protect you, you don't have to be afraid." So they didn't want to upset the local population too much. So they did very gradually. You can't go out early in the morning and not late at night. You have to you're not allowed on public transport, where we had the bicycles, everybody had a bicycle. Then you can't go to swimming pool and cinemas, theater. Well, it doesn't matter, we still, you know, we have entertained ourselves by ourselves. There was no television, but we used to play games together. It was quite cozy. Then we had to wear the yellow star, and so it became more and more and more difficult. Then we had to leave our schools and go to Jewish schools, which by itself was not bad, because we had a lot of good Jewish teachers. But what they did was that when the Nazis came into a class, for instance, told the children, "All come along." There were trucks outside, the children were loaded on the trucks, the parents waited for the children to come home, and they never turned up. And there was no way of finding out where they had gone. So you can imagine it became really scary. So for 2 years we lived like that in fear. Each evening, if we were all together still, we were satisfied. Then in 1942, many young people, meaning between 16 and perhaps 25, got call-up notice to be deported to a work camp in Germany. And many Dutch people sent their young people. They didn't think how serious it would be. And they were all sent to Mauthausen, which is a horrific concentration camp. And only after the war did one hear that they were just thrown down from the cliffs there. But at that time, of course, one didn't know anything about that. But at that time, a lot of the German and Austrian Jews who had already experienced the terrible things decided they wouldn't send their children, but we would go into hiding. That was my brother Heinz, who was 16 years old. You can see again a picture. A very, very talented young man. He was a wonderful musician, had a great ear. who could sing or play with him any tune and he could follow it. We had the piano, he had the guitar, he had an accordion, and they formed a little band. Was now it's not so special, but at the time that was quite exceptional. And he had many, many talents. And my father, of course, said, "You're not going. We're not going to send you to Germany, whatever." So we went into hiding. Well, most of you probably know the story of Anne Frank, how they were in hiding with 8 people, and never to go out. And with us, it was slightly different. We stayed with Dutch people who had the courage to help Jewish people. Very, very important. There were many, many tens of thousands of very brave Dutch people who worked in the resistance and helped Jewish people. They did all kinds of things. They blew up trains, sometimes they shot Germans, but they found as well hiding places for Jewish people. They raided offices where the ration cards were kept, because nobody would keep you without a ration book. So, but you know, in Amsterdam, you don't live in houses, you live in rather small apartments. So we had to split up. I went with my mother, and my father and brother went to a different place. So there were house searches. The Nazis came at night and searched for Jewish people. And so we had to have a hiding place within the hiding place. So the resistance came and said, well, we could make a little wall here so that we could go there, and all kind of different things. But we were in about 7 different hiding places in 2 years. Because people became too scared and said, well, you know, we can't stand it any longer, you have to find a different hiding place. So the last hiding place, my father and brother too moved several times. The person where my father and brother were staying started to blackmail them to ask for more money. And it was 1944, we had some jewelry which my father sold to the resistance, but we didn't have much left. So my father said, well, if we run out of money, she's going to throw us out anyway. So he said we're out in the country. So I got in touch with my mother and asked her to find a new hiding place in Amsterdam. So eventually a Dutch nurse came forward and said she knew a safe house, but she was a double agent and she betrayed us, all 4 of us. On my 15th birthday, we were arrested. 11th of May, it's a date, of course, I'll never forget. We were interrogated, especially me, because they thought they can get out of me who was the people who helped us with the different hiding places, who brought us ration books and so on. Luckily, I didn't know their real name, so I couldn't betray anybody. I always think, well, perhaps if I would have known, because they beat me up, they threatened to kill my brother, and so, you know, but as I say, luckily I couldn't betray anybody. So then we were put on a train, proper train, and we went to Westerbork, that's a holding camp. That was on a Wednesday. On Friday morning, we were already called up to a list to be deported to anywhere, to Poland probably. This Westerbork camp, that's quite interesting, was run by Jewish people under supervision of the Nazis. So it wasn't bad there, the families could meet, you'd worked a bit, you got food, you had a bunk, a bed. But those people who run the camp, the Jewish people, were told by the Nazis, for instance on Wednesday, we need by Friday a list with 500 names for people who have to be put on transport. And those people knew the people that were going to choose were going to probably to their death.